Have you ever wondered why Pakistan and Afghanistan, two neighboring countries with deep historical and cultural ties, often seem to be at odds? It's a story of shared heritage, but also one of mistrust, conflict, and the long shadow of foreign intervention. And right in the middle of it all, for the last few decades, has been the United States. Today, we're diving deep into the complicated relationship between Pakistan and Afghanistan and figuring out where the US fits into this puzzle. The story really begins with a line drawn on a map in 1893. The Durand Line, established by the British Empire, sliced through the heart of the Pashtun ethnic group, dividing them between modern-day Pakistan and Afghanistan. Afghanistan has never officially recognized this border, viewing it as a colonial imposition. This single issue has been a source of tension from the very beginning. For Pakistan, the Durand Line is an internationally recognized border. For many Afghans, especially Pashtuns, it's a historical injustice that separates families and communities. This foundational disagreement sets the stage for much of the conflict that would follow. Fast forward to the late 1970s. The Soviet Union invades Afghanistan, and the world changes overnight. The United States, locked in the Cold War, sees an opportunity to bog down its rival, but it can't intervene directly. So, who becomes the essential partner? Pakistan. The U.S. funnels billions of dollars in sophisticated weapons through Pakistan's intelligence agency, the ISI, to support the Afghan Mujahideen fighting the Soviets. This policy was incredibly successful in one sense. It helped force a Soviet withdrawal, but it also had disastrous, long-term consequences. This is where the idea of strategic depth comes in. For Pakistan's military establishment, having a friendly pro-Pakistan government in Kabul is seen as crucial. Why? They're worried about their much larger neighbor to the east, India. The fear is being caught in a two-front war, with India on one side and an unfriendly, potentially Indian-allied Afghanistan on the other. So, during the Soviet-Afghan War, Pakistan didn't just support the Mujahideen, it cultivated specific groups that it believed would best serve its interests. One of these groups, born in the refugee camps in Pakistan, was the Taliban. When the Soviets left, a brutal civil war erupted in Afghanistan. Out of this chaos, the Taliban rose to power in 1996, with significant backing from Pakistan. For a brief period, Pakistan had the friendly government in Kabul it desired. However, the world, including the United States, largely shunned the Taliban regime for its harsh rule and for sheltering extremist groups, most notably Al-Qaeda, led by Osama bin Laden. Then came September 11, 2001. The 9/11 attacks, planned by Al-Qaeda from its safe haven in Afghanistan, changed everything. The U.S. delivered an ultimatum to the Taliban: hand over bin Laden or face invasion. The Taliban refused. The U.S. launched Operation Enduring Freedom, and this put Pakistan in an incredibly difficult position, faced with the threat of being bombed back to the Stone Age. As Pakistan's then-president Musharraf later claimed, Pakistan made a pivotal choice. It officially abandoned the Taliban and became a major non-NATO ally of the United States in the War on Terror. Pakistan provided crucial logistical support, intelligence, and airspace for U.S. operations in Afghanistan. In the years that followed, the U.S. provided Pakistan with billions of dollars in military and economic aid. On the surface, they were partners. But beneath the surface, the relationship was a tangled mess of contradictions. U.S. officials frequently accused elements within Pakistan's security apparatus, particularly the ISI, of playing a double game. They alleged that while Pakistan was helping the U.S. fight some militants, it was secretly continuing to support the Afghan Taliban. Why would they do this? Again, it all comes back to strategic depth and the fear of Indian influence in Afghanistan. From Pakistan's perspective, the U.S. was a temporary partner. They would eventually leave, but India and Afghanistan would always be their neighbors. They felt they couldn't afford to completely abandon the Taliban, who they saw as their best bet for maintaining influence in a post-US Afghanistan. This created immense frustration in Washington. The U.S. was spending billions of dollars and losing soldiers in a war against an enemy that it believed was being sheltered and supported by its own supposed ally. This tension boiled over in May 2011, when U.S. Navy SEALs found and killed Osama bin Laden, not in a remote Afghan cave, but in a compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, a stone's throw from a major military academy. The discovery was a massive embarrassment for Pakistan and seemed to confirm America's worst suspicions. The trust between the two countries, already thin, completely shattered. Over the next decade, the U.S. presence in Afghanistan dwindled. The relationship with Pakistan remained transactional and deeply distrustful. U.S. aid was cut, and public statements from both sides became more and more hostile. Pakistan, meanwhile, grew closer to China, which invested heavily in the country through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Finally, in August 2021, the U.S. completed its withdrawal from Afghanistan. The Afghan government and its army, which the U.S. had spent 20 years and trillions of dollars building, collapsed in a matter of days. The Taliban swept back into power. For Pakistan, this outcome was a mixed bag. On one hand, the pre-Indian government in Kabul was gone, and their long-supported allies were back in charge. A strategic victory, perhaps. But this victory came with a huge price tag. The Taliban's return has emboldened extremist groups within Pakistan itself, most notably the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, or the TTP. This group, while separate from the Afghan Taliban, shares a similar ideology and has launched a wave of deadly attacks inside Pakistan. So, the very strategic depths Pakistan sought has created a massive internal security problem. Furthermore, a new crisis has emerged. Pakistan is now forcibly deporting hundreds of thousands of undocumented Afghan refugees, many of whom have lived there for decades, creating a humanitarian disaster and further souring relations with the Taliban government in Kabul. Border clashes have become more frequent. So, where does the U.S. stand now? After its chaotic withdrawal, the U.S. has largely disengaged from the region, at least publicly. Its focus has shifted to other global priorities, like competition with China and the war in Ukraine. The U.S. no longer sees Pakistan as the crucial partner it once was. The relationship is now much more limited, focused on counterterrorism and nuclear security. The leverage the U.S. once held is greatly diminished. For Pakistan, the era of massive U.S. aid is over. It's now navigating a complex regional landscape, trying to manage a volatile border, a struggling economy, and a resurgent threat from militants it once fostered. In the end, this is a story with no simple heroes or villains. It's a tragedy of unintended consequences, where the pursuit of short-term security goals by all three parties, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and the United States, created long-term instability that haunts the region to this day. Pakistan got its strategic depth but inherited a whirlwind of militancy. Afghanistan is back under Taliban rule, facing international isolation and a humanitarian crisis. And the U.S. left after 20 years, having spent trillions, only to see the group it originally went to oust return to power. The future of Pakistan-Afghanistan relations remains as uncertain and fraught with danger as ever. What do you think? What's the next chapter in this story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and if you found this breakdown helpful, be sure to like and subscribe for more deep dives into global affairs. See you next time.